Hi, I'm Mike Ryan. One of the central themes we've seen in many of our videos on our blog here on turquoiseinamerica.com has been about turquoise identification and about how different mines can have very similar looks, and also how the same mine can have a variety of different looks. All of these can make turquoise identification very difficult. Now, another central theme we've seen oftentimes, especially on the social media blogs, pages, is how people would love to identify their turquoise as Lander Blue. Why? Well, Lander Blue is probably the highest priced turquoise per carat on the marketplace. And if you can find some true Lander Blue, you're probably going to pay between $300, $400 a carat or more. And that's simply because there is so little available. Now, any day you can look on eBay and other sources and you'll find more Lander Blue available than was ever mined. But it's not Lander Blue. So finding true Lander Blue with really solid provenance is really, really difficult. So today I thought it would be fun to look at some Lander Blue that we know is Lander Blue and compare that to another turquoise mine that very, very few people know about. And if you think Lander Blue had low production, Starburst has minuscule production. In fact, we're going to see just about all of the what is considered gem grade that came out of that really, truly hat mine. Very, very small production mine. Now, the other central theme we find in a lot of turquoise mines are the fact that when turquoise miners get together in one area, and because of the nature of making claims on public land, there can be a lot of boundary disputes. A lot of those occur just because it's very difficult in that terrain to be certain of where the different claims are. So you get a lot of locations that will overlap other locations. So you can get a situation where you're working together in that situation. We're reminded of the old Robert Frost statement, good fences make good neighbors. And sometimes it's really hard to establish those boundaries. So we have a lot of conflicts. And we have people accusing others of high-grading them or claim jumping, and all those issues take place. Some of them do actually occur. A lot of them are just miscommunications and misunderstandings. But with Starburst, we do have a situation. I'm not going to mention any names and get into that, but I think we can see by looking at the turquoise itself, we can really see how the turquoise itself really differs from the Lander Blue that it does closely resemble. So let's take a look at Lander Blue turquoise and Starburst. So here we're looking at two Riker boxes of the Starburst here on the left and the Lander Blue here on the right. Now, the Starburst is really hard to see here, and we really see a real feature of this in that while the pinpoint formation of the turquoise is similar to Lander Blue, you can tell by just looking at this, it's much muddier, it's much darker. It really doesn't pop out like we can see in the Lander Blue turquoise. And I'll try to get a little closer look at this so you can get an idea of that formation and see how, while the formation is really similar to Lander Blue, when you see them together, they are very distinct and separate. With the Lander Blue, as you can see here, you see the formation of the turquoise is a much brighter. It really shines, sort of comes out, a very distinctive, easily identified as Lander Blue. And while you do have these tiny little pinpoints, you also have a little bit larger formations. Also, as we go down in grade, the Lander Blue has real consistency in grade, and even these cabs, which would be considered to be not of the same grade as these or this cab, they're still a very, very high grade. We also see lots of these tiny little cabs in Lander Blue because when you get the price per carat, the small cabs for a price per cab, much more affordable than if you get into these larger cabs, which get quite expensive. On the other hand, we don't really have a price for Starburst because you'll never find it. You'll never see it. You're pretty much looking at most of that highest grade production from Starburst. But here's something that's really fascinating. If we look down here on these lower grades, this turquoise is a dead ringer for Blue Moon. And that would lead me to believe that this is probably the area that this turquoise comes from, in the vicinity of Blue Moon, simply because we have this similar color turquoise in the chert. But look how much difference. Here we have these veins forming here, but here we have these nuggets coming out from a definite pocket that we're seeing here. So not going to go into the dispute, but we're going to see, more importantly, how the similar looks in turquoise, they really can be very, very different when we look at them side by side. Here we're going to get a closer look at the Starburst, and I think here you can really see the formations here, and really how, if I were to just show you this not in comparison to Lander Blue, you might be very hard pressed to say that this was not indeed Lander Blue turquoise. Very similar formation. You have that very, very dark colored matrix that is included in that. So here's a closer look at the Starburst turquoise. And now let's take a look at a similar close-up with Lander Blue. Well, here I think you can see very clearly, and these are really pretty accurate colors. I'm really kind of impressed. Usually on the photos, they really don't really do justice to the turquoise, but I think in this instance we're really getting a really good indication of the true color and a formation of the turquoise from Lander Blue. And we're seeing these kind of very classic looks, the tiny little pinpoints, and all of these came from one squash blossom necklace. Very good provenance on it. When I bought these, and I went in on this with Bob Bruscia. So I was very confident in terms of the provenance identity. This particular cab came from Rex Edgar, who bought it from his uncle. So again, within the Edgar family, we've got a good provenance, since the Edgars were involved in the mining of and the cutting of turquoise there at Lander Blue, which you can read about in Turquoise in America Part 2. And then we have this nice big cab here that came, the provenance, this came from Tucson there, from a dealer there in Tucson. Very, very good provenance on this. Marked a body. So we're really comfortable with the provenance on that turquoise. But just look at that, and when you see and compare that to the turquoise, and I'm going to do a quick pan here, and it's going to be a little jumpy, but I hope you'll appreciate moving from that over here to this, and you can really see now, well, my goodness, you'd never confuse those two when you see them in a side-by-side comparison. So, once again, I hope you've enjoyed this look at Starburst and Lander Blue.